Clawson on, and it's just about 3 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get going. Appreciate everyone's patience today and all your flexibility and being available for this call this afternoon. I'll first turn it over to our athletic director, John Currie, for an opening statement, and then he will turn it over to Coach Clawson, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, John?
Thank you very much, Will. First of all, I want to start with an obvious acknowledgement of the people who have suffered from COVID and the global pandemic, and a word of continued encouragement and appreciation for all the healthcare workers who are continuing to help save lives as we continue to battle the pandemic and its ongoing iterations. Obviously, the last 24 hours, starting with an early morning text message from my good friend and colleague, Pat Kraft at Boston College, have added another chapter to the book of college athletics with twists and turns and all that kind of stuff. As we look at Wake Forest football, with our coach, Dave Clawson, on the screen, who received yet another accolade in the last 24 hours as a finalist for the Bobby Dodd Award, and then having visited some with our team members and captains earlier today. I'm just really grateful for the job that Coach Clawson has done here, building a football program that is now a perennial postseason participant, a championship winning program, a program that continues to graduate student athletes very consistently. I'm really proud of all that, and as disappointed as I was earlier today when it became apparent that Texas A&M could not play in the bowl game, I'm heartened by the fact that there's a number of schools that appear do want to play in a bowl game, and we can talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Also recognize Greg McGarity and his staff at the Texas Slayer Gator Bowl, one of the oldest bowl games. Wake Forest was a participant in the original game in 1946. They've continued to work diligently to find opportunities for Wake Forest team to have the opportunity to play. And I want to recognize our fans. Oversold our ticket allotment again this year, big contingent, hoping still to go down and play in Jacksonville. So with that said, let me turn it back over to Will. And I know Coach Clawson will have comments and take questions.
Go ahead, Coach. Coach, you're on mute.
That's usually when I'm most effective. So first off, thanks everybody for joining us. And we always appreciate your coverage of Wake Forest athletics and our football program. Obviously, the last 48, 72 hours has been a roller coaster. Our players want to play in a bowl game, and we were and are very excited of the opportunity to hopefully still play in the Gator Bowl. John and I have been in constant communication. We've met with our captains multiple times. And, we certainly want to exhaust every opportunity to play in the game, given a reasonable time constraint. And so we're disappointed that we don't get a chance to play a team in the SEC, with the brand of a Texas A&M. Obviously, COVID is a very serious issue, and we hope that all the players in Texas A&M that are impacted by this, recover and they're healthy. And again, we're going to try like crazy with conjunction with the Gator Bowl and the ACC office to try to find an opponent. And we're still hopeful and optimistic that there will be a Gator Bowl in 2021. And we'll have an opportunity to participate in that game. So I had my whole Texas A&M preview ready to go, and I had spent 15 to 20 hours so I could do a great job on this press conference with you guys. But you probably don't want me to preview Texas A&M anymore, I assume. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Hey, Gary, we'll start with you from the Florida Times Union.
Yeah, gentlemen, thanks. John, at what point were you kind of aware that there was going to be some issues and, and a realization that you weren't going to play in this game? And you mentioned other teams. Greg McGarity has told me that almost anything's on the table, including 5 and 7 teams and possibly even a team such as 4 and 8 Navy. So at this point, to the best of your knowledge, what do you think the options are?
Gary, it'd be inappropriate for me to comment on options because I'm not the host of the game. That's Greg McGarity and the Texas Slayer Gator Bowl working collaboratively with the league. But to be very clear, I'm heartened because when I left Coach Clawson's office about 1:30 after meeting with our captains, I didn't know what kind of interest would be out there. It's hard to, a football team is really complicated, talking about a lot of people, a lot of parts and all that kind of stuff, and to mobilize for whatever reason after being, disbanding for the semester, or maybe you just played a game or whatever. But there have been several teams, I think at least 4 have reached out that I'm aware of already. So I'm very optimistic. In terms of when we found out, early yesterday morning, I mentioned, we dealt with a basketball issue. We were supposed to play basketball tonight and we could not play. Shortly thereafter in that same window, Will Pantages made us aware of a tweet or for somebody out there talking about some problems in the Texas A&M program. Ross Bjork, their athletics director, has been in good communication. When I talked to him yesterday morning, he told me that they had some challenges that they were trying to work through, and we're still hopeful that they could play. And we were in conversation last night and this morning, but it was fairly apparent that it was going to be a difficult. It was apparent that it was quite likely that they couldn't play.
Thank you.
Aaron Beard, go ahead.
Hey guys, I've got one for both of you. I'll start with John. You just touched on, you've heard, I guess, that some people were interested. How much involvement do you have in a process like this? Like in the past, it was schools are communicating with schools and coaching staffs to find someone else to play. Do you guys have much involvement other than hearing what's happening, or or more of a, kind of a secondary role in this?
Well, really starting with yesterday when we knew that there was a chance that Texas A&M would not be able to play, we were thinking about options and, making calls and those of us who've been doing this for a while, like both Coach Clawson and I, we know a lot of people around. And so we were able to put some lines in the water, so to speak. And then that's continued today. Ultimately, though, once the public notice of this came out, I think it was pretty quick that there were some teams that were interested that reached out to us, reached out to the Taxslayer Gator Bowl and Greg McGarity, and reached out to the ACC.
And then to ask Dave something about protocols, I'm just curious, Mac Brown talked today about for their bowl game, maybe going back to things that they were doing more last year. I'm just curious with the rise in cases and everything we've heard, are you changing anything or how you're talking to the team about protocols, just in general about keeping safe right now?
Well, first off, I really want to thank our partners at Wake Baptist Hospital, and they've been incredible resources for us. They have helped us emphasize the importance of the booster as further proof of how much our players want to play in this game. The day they got back, we had 72 of our players get the booster shots. And so our players really want to play in it. We understand, the new variant is very contagious. So we've gone back to wearing masks in meetings, wearing masks in positional meetings, and just constantly emphasizing it with our team. It becomes a little bit easier during bowl practice because the rest of the campus is not here. And so a lot of their social contact is with each other. They're not going to classes right now. There's not interaction with other students. And so we've just told our players to keep masks on, to try to limit their interaction with each other, and to do all those things that we were doing a year ago when all the learning was remote, that all these things would increase our chances of being able to play in a bowl game. So, we have very few players on our team that right now don't have the booster shot. I think it's well over 90% have already got the booster.
Thank you, guys.
Ethan Joyce, go ahead.
John, first off, is there a deadline or a certain day where if there's not an opponent lined up that kind of essentially says that this game may not take place or it may not be capable to take place anymore?
Let me let Coach Clawson take that question because really the student athletes are the ones that are most important in that equation.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the captains just a few hours ago, right before the announcement was going to come out. And, basically said, do you guys still want to play in the bowl if we can find an opponent? And it was yes, but with a qualifier. They don't want to be here during Christmas Day if there's still uncertainty. So we just don't want to be hanging around, lifting, practicing without a purpose if there's not a relative certainty that we're going to have the actual bowl game. So today is Wednesday. I would say, I think for our players, in fairness to them, if we're going to keep them over the Christmas holiday, we probably need to know something fairly early Friday. So we wanted to give it enough time so there was an opportunity to find an opponent. But again, our players, and you can understand this, if they're not going to be playing in a bowl game, they want to be able to spend the holidays with their families. So we're hoping that something can be solidified between now and early Friday. And if not, we will put that decision back in our players' hands. As we told them, a bowl game is a reward for a successful season. We don't want them to feel like they're being kept here if that's not something they want to do. But overwhelmingly, the captains, they want to play in the Gator Bowl. And that's what they said. We want to play in the Gator Bowl. We've worked really hard to get to a bowl of this caliber, of this prestige. As you can imagine, we have a ton of family members that are flying there. We oversold our bowl allotment again. We have a lot of Wake Forest fans down there, and we want to spend another game with Deacon Nation and our fans, our families. And so we're going to give that every opportunity to happen without keeping our players here Christmas Day without some certainty.
Dave, going off that, just from the head coaching perspective, when you do first find out about the potential of needing a new opponent, how do you kind of think about the risk versus reward when, like you said, you're a team and a university that's taken the vaccine very seriously, but the numbers kind of have been creeping up, and obviously Texas A&M, a key example of things popping up in some athletics teams again.
Ethan, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be an expert at COVID or the variant. What I do is I listen to our doctors. So Dr. Chris Miles has really been amazing the past 2 years. He's such a great resource. I let him talk to the team. I let him direct the healthcare. And given what's going on, I mean, there's not certainty with anything. You see NFL games being delayed, NHL games being canceled, college basketball games being canceled. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep our football team safe and healthy for two reasons. Number one, it's the right thing to do. And number two, our guys want to compete again. And we have to hope that whatever opponent we're going to play is doing the same things. But a lot of times in coaching, and we tell our players this all the time, is control the controllables. We have no control over how Texas A&M managed COVID or any of their decision-making. That's not under our control. So we are doing everything we can so that we can hopefully play in a bowl game. And we'll let those other moving parts take care of themselves, because ultimately we have no say or control of those things.
Thank you.
Andrea Adelson, go ahead.
First one for John. There has been some speculation about the possibility of a team that's already played in a bowl game, maybe playing in your game. Is that something that would be allowed under NCAA rules?
Andrea, I don't know the rules specifically. What I've understood is that whatever waivers might need to be in place to enable that to happen are likely to happen.
So basically, there is a possibility that a team that's already played in a bowl could play in your game.
Yes, yes. In fact, I got another text just a minute ago from another team that's interested since this call has started.
That already played in a bowl?
Correct.
Okay. And then for Dave, I know you mentioned the success you've had with your players getting the booster since they came back. Did your medical team or you or anybody there anticipate the swiftness with which this variant of COVID would affect teams and then therefore affect what's happening in the bowls?
Not really. We were reacting to the policies of the university. We were made a few weeks ago that Wake Forest, as an institution for all students, was going to require the booster when they return in early January. And so more than anything, we just wanted to ensure that we wouldn't have any issues with our returning players in January. Student athletes have a different schedule than students. So a lot of the students had a month to go home and get the booster. Our guys had 5 days to go home. And then because of how late the bowl game is scheduled, we're only going to have 6 or 7 days after the break. And so we just tried to provide an opportunity for them to get the booster for multiple reasons. Number one, to keep them healthy. Number two, to help our odds of playing in the bowl game. And number three, so they were compliant with university policies.
And as a quick follow-up, if you are able to play in the game, are you going to change anything about when you travel down there or any of their protocols once you're in Jacksonville?
Part of the excitement of going to this game is to have a hotel right on Amelia Island. I don't know, Andrea, I've heard that's a really nice place.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine being on a beach in the sunshine in beautiful weather and being outside. We may limit their travel down there to other social locations and things like that. But again, I think in your downtime, if you have access to beautiful weather and a beautiful beach, I can't imagine that that's not a safe place to be. All this comes down to, Andrea, at the end of the day, is individuals making smart decisions. And sometimes as a coach, the more you try to control those things and mandate them, the worse it gets. That you hope as a program that there's a collective discipline and they're unselfish and they're willing to be sacrificial for each other, for the group's success. And our football team has done that all year. So I'm confident whether we stay in Winston-Salem or we're in Jacksonville, I can't imagine the location is going to change behavior.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Connor, go ahead.
John, I wanted to see if I could get you to clarify if all 5 of the teams you've heard from now are teams that have already played in bowls, or is there a mix of 5 and 7 teams in there?
I can't say with certainty, Connor, but I think it's a mix.
Eddie Hughes, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned speaking to the captains. Have you talked to the team collectively?
I'm going to do that later. We have a schedule, Eddie, and, in a football program, when you include the coaches and the staff and the trainers, there's a lot of moving parts. So it's not like you can instantly call a meeting and have all 150 people there. So we have 6 captains. Anytime a big decision like this that's going to affect our whole football team, I always try to get their input first. I'll then have a meeting with all of our seniors at 4 o'clock. I think with bowl games, you always feel more of a responsibility with the seniors, because for all those guys, this is potentially the last football game they will ever play in. And then the third group I meet with is the whole group collectively. So the first meeting already happened. I'm going to meet with all of our seniors at 4 o'clock, and then I'll meet with the whole group. And, I think given the timeline, and they were going to be here anyways, our team wants to play in this bowl. And, but I would say this, they want to play in the Gator Bowl, and they want to play in the Gator Bowl December 31st.
John Johnson, go ahead.
Yeah, this for John. I guess with the deadline that Dave and the team have put, I guess Friday, December 25th, you said you're heartened, but how optimistic are you that you guys will have an opponent by then at that deadline?
Well, I'm an optimist by nature, but right now, based upon the fact that there's interest, I'm really encouraged. But certainly it's complex, and ultimately the Greg McGarity, who's done a great job as the executive director of the Taxslayer Gator Bowl, it's sort of in his hands to figure out how that needs to work.
Just a quick follow-up on that. You mentioned you had this interest, you had a team reach out to you in the middle of this. I guess, what are some of the complexities that you might be able to share with us that, I guess, prevent you from just saying, hey, let's just go with this team here that's reached out?
Well, it's not much. It's ultimately, Wake Forest is the ACC's representative in the Taxslayer Gator Bowl, right? And so Texas A&M opted out. That's the SEC's representative. So it's really up to the Gator Bowl to drive that process of getting that next team to replace the Aggies, right? So obviously they're a collaborative partner of the Atlantic Coast Conference, so there'll be some communication between Greg and then Michael Strickland, who's our deputy commissioner for football, and Commissioner Phillips, and I'm sure we'll have I'm sure they'll consult with us in some ways, but really it's them driving that process. What's most important from Wake Forest is the assurance that our captains have given Coach Clawson, and then Coach Clawson can give and I can give to the league and to the Gator Bowl that we want to be there, and that has been our position from day one.
Thank you.
Jalen Gilkey, go ahead.
Yeah, Jalen Gilkey, WFM1 News 2 in Greensboro. John just kind of touched on my last question, but just wanted to reiterate, is there any specific, I know many of these holiday bowl games are classic matchups between different conferences. Is there any conferences in particular that we're trying to narrow this down to? I know you kind of said it was already up to the Gator Bowl, but we're still looking for a larger conference opponent.
Again, I mean, our position is that we want to play in the Taxslayer Gator Bowl on December 31st. We're proud of our team and what they've accomplished, and would love to have the opportunity to tack an 11th win onto a historic season. So who that's against ultimately is not in our control, and so we'll be ready to play whoever it is.
All right, guys, we got time for a couple more. We'll go to Les Johns.
Hey, Dave, I'm just curious how this changes like the structure of the week. At what point in the bowl preparation process were you, and how much this kind of, I guess, derails things? Or I'm sure you're going to tell me that it doesn't really derail things, right?
Oh, I mean, it derails things a lot. We've spent 2 weeks watching film on Texas A&M. I mean, the week we're out recruiting, we're watching film on them. We've had meetings all week. We have red zone plan, third down plan. I mean, there's a huge investment of man hours already in Texas A&M. So we wanted to play Texas A&M. We were prepared to play Texas A&M. Now, that's why I asked our players, if you want to play, we'll do it all again for another opponent if that's what you guys want. We're here for the players. The players aren't here for us. And so I said, I'm going to take my lead from you. If you guys want to play, we're willing to do this whole thing over with another opponent because we want to provide for them the experience that they want. So how involved am I in bowl planning? Everything that happens at Wake Forest, I'm very involved in. Myself and Jordan Jerry plan every minute of every day for our players. And when we knew that this decision could come out today, we did not practice our upperclassmen. I very much took the approach like we did during the COVID year, that I didn't feel right practicing our older players for a game that may not happen. So today was going to be our first Texas A&M practice and get the scouts going. And when I knew that could happen, we had our upperclassmen lift, and we had a what we call a rookie ball practice that we took a lot of our younger players in red shirts and almost had a spring practice with them to help develop them. And I will go to our team today and say, this is where we're at. What are you guys comfortable doing? And I've said this again and again. A bowl is a reward. And I think one of the reasons that we've been to 6 straight bowls is that our players are motivated to go to a bowl game because they enjoy the bowl experience. We never want to make the bowl experience here drudgery and another 2 weeks of spring football and fall camp. We try to keep it fun and light and have activities. And we want it to be something they want to do. So whether we're playing Texas A&M or another opponent, that approach won't change.
We'll go 2 more guys. Ethan, Joyce, go ahead.
John, could you kind of give maybe a view of what it would be like financially to try to deal with the loss of a bowl game? Like what some of the problems would come up for you, just trying to maybe, whether that's smooth out tickets or whatever that would be. What would that look like?
Well, Ethan, there are a couple different angles of that question. Certainly, if a conference is contracted to be in a bowl game and can't supply a team for that bowl, that would mean that whatever the bowl payout that the conference is owed by the bowl would certainly not happen. So that would have a trickle-down effect on everybody in the conference from a distribution standpoint. From an individual school standpoint, some of this would be covered by the ACC. I don't know all the details of cancellations, but the real hardship is on the families of players who've made plans, fans who've made plans, all, on the assumption that teams are going to be there to play the games. And so I know that there are a lot of fans who are already anxious about that and trying to figure out if they can get refunds and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can have another team to play and go play in the Gator Bowl.
All right, everybody, I think that'll wrap us up. I appreciate your coverage of Wake Forest and let us know if you have any questions.
Go Deeks.
Thank you all.